Hey, what's up, bookworms? We are back with another Talk About Nothing. This time, it's my guest is going to be the only guy who makes me feel like I read at a snail's pace. This is, of course, Jake Bishop, Truthless of YouTube, as we like to call him. Jake, how are you, my man?
I am doing well, Mike. I am doing well. Have kind of a day off. Read Lord of the Rings. Generally been a pretty relaxed day. Going pretty well.
With the speed that you read, did you read the whole trilogy today? I mean,
No. I actually didn't get that much reading done today, but I'll probably read more after. I only read like a chapter today, although I guess I read a bit after midnight last night. So technically I read more than a chapter today, but
if you
whatever.
guys don't know, he's the only one besides me that I know that got approved for a review copy of the new Sun Eater book, and he finished it in like a day and a half. And I'm like, it
Yeah.
takes me like 3 weeks to read one of those Sun Eater books. So
And that's not normal reading speed for me. When I'm waiting for a new release to come out, I read it faster when it gets here. I don't know why, but I just normally, I get distracted. I'll be reading. I'll check Discord. When I'm reading a release I've been waiting months for, I'm just like,
yeah, didn't you read Rhythm of War like twice in 48 hours or
I
something?
only read it once, but I read it in like 34 hours. It
I,
was aggressive. It was I wanted to read it slower, but I get
yeah,
obsessed when
I
I've
think the
been
last
waiting.
book that I did that with, and this is really going to seem ancient because it does seem like that, was A Dance with Dragons, George R. R. Martin. Yeah, and that tells you how long ago it was. It was the last time he released a book. Or I'm sorry, he released a new book in A Song of Ice and Fire. I read that one, and basically I called in sick to work so I could just stay home and
Yeah.
read it. And that's
I
like,
called in sick for Rhythm of War. I got ahead on schoolwork deliberately so I could basically just not go to class on the day Rhythm of War came out. There was planning going along because I knew that if I didn't plan ahead, I would just read it anyways and would get really behind.
yeah, I see, guys. This was like with book geeks. See, you guys will call in sick to work hungover. We call in sick to read a book.
It's
See, so
true. I used the
priority.
day like I booked it off.
So the whole like booktube thing, what made you decide you wanted to get into this business? Because you're about did you hit 1,000 yet? You're about to hit 1,000, aren't you?
I'm pretty close to 1,000. I haven't quite hit 1,000. So basically, I was in Discord with someone, and they were like, "Hey, you should make a booktube channel." And I was like, "I have no idea how. Like, my videos will be terrible. Like, I look at these other people's videos, like they're polished." Um, and I think it was Alex, and he was like, "Look at my first video," and I was like, "Wow, that was awful." And I looked at a bunch of other first videos, and I was like, "Wow, all these first videos are terrible. Like, no one's first video was good at all." And I was like, all right, well, I'll just make it bad. And
Yeah.
eventually I'll
I
get
tell a
better
lot of
at it.
people when they start, it's like, don't worry about buying like a bunch of fancy equipment and stuff. Just everyone starts really bad at this. No one's going to be perfect from go. My first videos, it's from this shitty webcam that I'm using right now, actually. But yeah, my main camera was this shitty webcam, and my lips never matched. The audio never matched my lips and stuff, and it was out of focus, and I had no idea what I was talking about. Kind of like right now. But yeah, so I always tell people just go for it.
Yeah, just do it. Worst case scenario is you come out with a bad video that like 5 people will watch. Whatever, you'll make better videos later.
Yeah, my first one, I don't even remember what I talked about. It was really never, because I never really planned it to be like a booktube thing. I didn't know booktube existed when I did that. It was just I had a podcast at the time with a guy where we just talked about a bunch of geeky stuff, like Marvel movies, Star Wars, comic books, things like that. And every time I talk about like novels I was reading, he was always like, yeah, whatever, I don't got time for that stuff. So I thought I'll spin off and do that on my own. Had no idea that well, this existed. So yeah, it's kind of wild how that happens. But yeah, you feeling better? I mean, close to what you've been doing about a year now.
Yeah, it would be just over. It would be over a year by a little bit. I think I started late 2020, so it'd be like I don't know, 15 months or
Yeah, so
something.
you're coming
I
up
don't
with
know.
some new ideas. I mean, well, most of them they get on here, it's my TBR, it's my book haul, it's some tier lists, some
I
top
got
tens.
those.
But I see you've been coming up with some neat ideas lately.
I got the classic ones, but I just kind of make whatever I feel like making, basically. In general, if I make a type of video, it's because I watch that type of video.
Right.
If there's a type of video that I don't make, I probably don't watch them. I've got Philip Chases with me on this. Me and him, we don't watch book hauls. Sorry, Mike, I haven't watched any of your book hauls, but
That's
yeah.
like the one
So
video I don't have problem getting people to watch, so it's fine. It's fine.
but I mostly, unlike apparently everyone else based on analytics, I watch the most reviews because
Yeah.
usually when I see a review of a book I haven't read, or a series that like is on my radar, but I know almost nothing, I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that.
I think that's a creator thing. Is like, it seems like none of our audience wants to watch just the reviews anymore. You know, they want the book hauls, they want the TBR, stuff like that. But like us content creators, like we love the reviews. I still watch the reviews, you know, because I want to know if I should read that book or not, you know. So yeah, that's I'm kind of the same way. But I've been watching very much. I mean, if I have a chance to listen, because you know they blocked YouTube at work, you know, which understandably so. So I don't really get to listen to very many people's YouTube stuff that much anymore. But you know, I can still listen to podcasts. So yeah, some people ask me all the time, "Hey, how you ever thought about putting these on podcast too?" And so, that's just one more thing I got to manage. You know, I don't want to do that. But
speaking of reviews, you left a Goodreads rating today, and it was 5 stars.
I did, because I'm reading what John Carter, the Barsoom, the Edgar Rice Burroughs. When it's a classic, guys, I don't have a problem handing it 5 stars. And a book's over 100 years old and it's still that much of a banger. Yeah, I'll give it. But yes, I have been guilty of saying I'll stop giving star reviews, because all it ever became about is like, oh, you gave that book a 3, but you gave this one a 4. That means you like it more than. And it just became, that's all it became. People didn't care about what you were saying about the book; they only cared about a star rating. So that was kind of why I stopped. But yeah, when I did that today, I was like, someone's going to say something. I thought it would be longer than an hour, but hey, you know, you're on top of things.
But I was like, you know, damn, like, because you know, for those who don't know, when Mike did leave star reviews, he did not hand out the 5 stars. Easily.
I hand out 5 stars very often, but you know,
probably
like something that's 110 years old and people still talk about it. It's probably pretty good.
Probably worth it. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time with it. I don't. You very much into the classics at all?
I haven't read that many classics. No, I might try Monte Cristo soon-ish. That sounds good.
Big boy, you can do it unabridged.
I don't know. Probably.
Well, the version that they have you read in high school is like 300 pages, and the real one's like 1,300 pages.
I feel like usually I'm the person, when people say like this book was too long, I'm the person who's kind of like, I kind of feel like I like it at that length, so I'll probably.
Yeah, I know you, Robin Hobb maniac. Yeah, so
yeah.
You know what? Let's talk about Robin Hobb. So this was really stunning to me, guys. If you didn't know, Jake joined Madison and Scott and I. We talked about Dragon Bone Chair, the first song, the first book in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And I almost called it Song of Ice and Fire. See, it's good now.
Basically the same series.
I was really stunned to find out that Robin Hobb had knocked off Brandon Sanderson as your favorite author.
She did.
I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to ask this question from a selfish standpoint before I ask you, you know what you love about Hobb. As someone who only read Farseer, liked the first 2 books, could not stand the third one. First, how did you feel about Assassin's Quest? And am I just way off on that one? Or was there, even Scott, our guy Scott, who loves everything Robert Hobb, even he says, that's probably one of my least favorite that she's done. But should that, deter me from reading Liveship, or should I just go straight to the next Fitz series? What do you think?
All right. So I know you don't use Twitter, and I barely use Twitter, but my Twitter is Jake, don't skip Liveship Bishop. So I think that answers your question. But okay. So Assassin's Quest. I read Assassin's Quest and I didn't know what to think, because on one hand, if you told me like, hey, what are your 5 favorite Farseer moments? There would be some from Assassin's Quest, but also it has like a 200-page stretch with barely any characters other than Fitz. And my favorite part of Farseer is the character interactions. And it just has long stretches where there's like almost none. So Assassin's Quest, to me, it's the book in Farseer that has the highest highs. The first 2 chapters of Assassin's Quest is literally maybe my favorite start to any book, like ever. And then there are like 200-page stretches that I was just like, okay, yeah, I need to read these. So I was mixed on Assassin's Quest. Assassin's Quest is obviously a book. There are people who give it like enthusiastic 5 stars, one of their favorite books ever. And I get why they like it. Like there's some stuff there and I'm like, okay, I see that. And there are people like you who read it and are just like, and I get that as well. It would be one of my, let's see, how many, probably bottom 5 for Realm of the Elderlings. But Farseer is it's my second least favorite of the sub-series.
Yeah.
I did something similar to you. I took a pretty long break after Farseer. I read Farseer in 2020, and then I didn't continue it for like 8 months or something. And then I love Liveship. Liveship is actually, you won't see this super often. Liveship is my favorite of the sub-series. It's really close between Liveship, Tawny Man, and Fitz and the Fool, but I would absolutely recommend Liveship. It's definitely like, it's not going to be fast. it's Hob. It's not gonna ever be like Dresden paced, but it's the difference between main character is alone traveling slow and a bunch of characters are interacting slow. And Liveship is never a person alone traveling slow. It's always like you have all these different characters that you're getting to know who are interacting.
Well, that's good, because my problem with Assassin's Quest, it was like, okay, it's been 100 pages. I get it. You're walking through the snow. You want to hunt. You think you're going to hunt. You might hunt today.
Yeah.
Oh, look, elf bark. So
fast travel. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just that I need, quick witty dialogue or whatever. But I think someone explained, it might have been you actually, explained Liveship to me very much coming of age, and that I'm always a sucker for that. Do you think that's accurate?
Liveship is a lot of things. I would say at least one of the main characters, maybe two, could be described as coming of age, but it's got quite a few POVs. It's not like Malazan-esque or something, but there's at least 3 main characters, 2 of which are kind of coming of age, but then the third of which I think Sarah mentioned this on her Talking with Nothing, the third of which is the antagonist, really, who is just a delightfully interesting, but also just
she did tell me that you get a POV from a villain in this one. That is great. That's great.
I don't know if I don't have it's not Stormlight or Wheel of Time, so I can't check the POV data. My guess would be the villain POV is probably the second most POV time in the series.
Okay.
You get a lot.
Well, see, the thing is, those are big. Robin Hobb doesn't narrow things down at all. I noticed that she's very much like it seems a Tad Williams here, and that she has no problem describing things to you. And again, I don't have problems with that. I think she's a gorgeous writer, and I was never going to not return. I mean, I enjoyed the first 2 books immensely to not return. And plus, everyone told me when I started, Farseer is one of her least best trilogies that she's written. If it wasn't for the dragon one, they say it would probably be the worst. So you agree with that? Do you agree the dragon ones are
Yeah, Rain Wilds is my least favorite. I still like Rain Wilds, especially the last 2 books, but it is my least favorite. You're probably going to agree with that. I would love to claim otherwise.
But Petrick, because this is Petrick's favorite series ever.
He's one of them. I think he gives 4.
And he said that, man, he hated those. So I was just like, can I skip him? He's like, that's the thing. I don't think you can.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's some parts in those that are just, I'm like, okay, whatever. But so many important things happen. So I'm
not really the type that skips. I mean, look, and I know this is the Dresden fans are going to get mad. I'll skip short stories, things like that. But I usually don't skip main narrative books. But, a good friend of mine is like, all I've read is just the Fitz books, and I understood it fine. So,
yeah, it's like if you go First Law Trilogy to Age of Madness, you're not going to be like, what's going on with Age of Madness? But there's also a lot of stuff that you're just not aware you're missing, that really, I think the depth of the supporting cast.
And we don't call those
kind of suffers.
People, the ones that skip the First Law standalones.
Well, I don't know what I say about the people who skip Liveship, but it's probably
that's really your Twitter handle. I can definitely imagine so. Yeah, I don't know when I'll get back into it, but this is kind of a good segue into Malazan here. Now that I've decided to take a break from Malazan, I think I could actually, move in. At least is Ship of Magic the first one?
Yeah,
I might actually have decided to move that one in. The thing about Malazan, and I think that you are an absolute maniac for reading those straight, because I don't know how you did it. I don't regret anything about reading Malazan or anything like that. I'm not DNFing it. I'm just saying that I need a break, because I was reading Toll the Hounds and I was just like, I am not enjoying myself right now. And I was like, I think if I had everyone that started that read along with me was still on it, I would be like, okay, you know what? Tough shit. Just get through it, just work it out. But I was like, there's 3 people left and it's just a bunch of rereaders, so I was like, I don't feel bad about saying, you know what, I'm not going to make that June finish date that I originally had. I think I'm just going to kind of fall back to my original finish date, which was December of this year. So as I say, I don't feel like I have any regrets about it. I do wish I'd stuck to that original schedule and I wouldn't have burned out on it a little bit, I think. So maybe Reaper's Guild. I think Reaper's Guild just broke me a little bit.
And it's also right now you're not excited to read Malazan. If you give it enough time, there will be a point in time where you'll think back to how much you love the Bone Hunters and and all the stuff you love. And you'll be like, I want to read Toll the Hounds right now.
Wanting to see more with the Tistandi and stuff and Rake and all that. So I was like, it's got the characters back I want to see, but I was just like,
Total Hound's not a book you can force as well. It's 1,300 pages. It's the longest one.
Exactly. And then, I felt like I did force Reaper's Gale, and it was 1,260 pages. And I was
they all get that long.
So I think that always helps. I mean, with any series, I always say to take breaks. I understand why you said you would forget too much if you took breaks between it. I'm just lucky that the file cabinets still work up here, and I can remember stuff like that. But I remember Lord of Chaos. I did with Wheel of Time. I was kind of lukewarm on that book, except for the ending. The ending was excellent. And so I took like a 6-month break, and I feel like I completely revitalized my energy for that series. And then I kind of just went through the end of it. So I think it may be the same happened with Malazan.
I mean, that's what I did with Realm of the Elderlings after Farseer. I was just kind of like, I'll take a break. Now, Realm of the Elderlings obviously gives you obvious stopping points, right? It's not like Wheel of Time where book 7's like a direct continuation for book 6. Liveship is like, it's almost like a completely different story. It's like best served cold versus the First Law trilogy in terms of how it's connected, if that.
All right. I know the answer to this is going to be neither, but would you say Liveship is closer to Pirates of the Caribbean or Moby Dick?
I haven't read Moby Dick.
Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky.
So, fortunately, I can't answer that well. It's not like Pirates of the Caribbean, though. So,
I just meant like it's fun sea adventure, whereas Moby Dick is the opposite of fun sea adventure. It's a very, very boring sea.
Well, it's not boring, but it's well, I don't think it's boring. Obviously, some people do, but people think that about every book, if you look enough. I don't know. I haven't read Moby Dick. It's not that much like Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean is much more like, your protagonist is Captain Jack Sparrow. There's not Captain Jack Sparrow. That's not your protagonist. I mean, it is at its core
more fun pirate swashbuckling kind of fun. More
like at its core, it's like a family drama, basically. That is the core. You're following the Vestrit family primarily. You have it's like, an inheritance kind of causes conflict. So I wouldn't describe it as particularly swashbuckling. But I don't know, like I wouldn't describe it as boring either. It's more, it takes itself a little bit more seriously than Pirates of the Caribbean does. Because I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't really take itself seriously at all. You have sword fights on top of masks with like tentacle monsters in a storm.
In a hurricane, yeah.
Yeah, in a hurricane. Just why not? Because they were like, that sounds fun. And you know what? They weren't wrong.
Hey, my 9-year-old loved it, so they did something right.
Hey, I thought
I think that was the target demo there. I don't think that the Liveship is probably the target demo. Is probably not 9-year-olds, is it?
No, there are no sword fights on top of masks in hurricanes against people, tentacle monsters.
I still got John Gwynne. I think he might pull something like that off here.
He could, and then someone would yell "Truth and Courage," and
and you'd be like, "Awesome!"
Yeah, let's go.
So you've read John Gwynne, right?
Yeah, all of his books. Yeah.
Are you a fan?
Yeah, I like John Gwynne. He wouldn't be like in my top 5. He's kind of he's the opposite of Malazan in how I enjoy it. Malazan is like it has ridiculously high highs and then really low lows.
Yeah.
John Gwynne, it never quite hits the highs of my favorites, but it's like I like all of it.
Yeah.
There's never something where I don't like it.
Did you get the review copy of the new book yet?
I think I applied. I don't know if I've gotten it. I don't think I have, but
it's very, very hard for me not to just say, F this Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn stuff. I'm going to start the next.
Probably read Hunger of the
If
Gods.
I was
in like
you,
3
I
days
would just say,
anyways.
you know what? I'll just knock this out in one day. But
you'll probably read Hunger of the Gods in 3 days anyways, because you'll get to that. Like
I took my time with the last one because I wanted to wait and do my review like right when it came out. So I took my time with it. But I probably won't be doing that this time just because I've had to wait. This is the first time I've ever had to wait for a John Gwynne book. When I read his first 2 series, they were done. So it would have just kind of fly through that. Where do you stand on the waiting until a series is done? Because I just did that review for Justice of Kings by Richard Swan.
I'm totally fine with that. I actually I really enjoy being able to like talk with people about it and theorizing it, and I kind of enjoy like the release. So like I wouldn't want to do it for every series, but I'm totally okay with waiting for books as long as I
if
get
it's
the
the
impression
once
that
a year kind of author, like I mean that's why I started Stormlight Archive, because I was like, okay, this guy writes fast. Because look, I've been reading A Song of Ice and Fire since the year 2000. I'm scarred about series, just fantasy writers just not wanting to write. So now I'm just like, the good thing about that is it taught me, there's other really great fantasy series out there and authors that actually write.
Now I have read so many different series. It's kind of each one I'm waiting for bothers me less and less because I just keep finding new authors I love. Sure. So it's
and I think I look at it like this: like if it's an author that's pretty well off. You know, they're not hurting to put food on the table. I don't got a problem waiting until their new series is finished. But it's a debut author. Sure, I want to help them out. You know, because saying you're going to wait for it to be finished for a debut author is really, really harmful to them. So if it's someone like that, or like a Joe Abercrombie, or before the now Pierce Brown, someone who releases a book like every year, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and do that. I don't mind waiting like a year. Like you said, I got plenty to read, but I'm also like, I got all these complete series I haven't started yet. Kind of maybe try to work on some of those.
Yeah, I do like, I like series to have an ending, but it's like, it's kind of, I mean, it might be slightly like Smoke, but it's kind of nice to think about, like, you know, when a series finishes, you can be like, yeah, you know, I remember when book 3 came out. You can be all like, you know, the Leonardo DiCaprio like smug emoji. You can be like, I remember when Oathbringer came out.
Yeah, people think I'm like that when I talk about how long I've been waiting for Song of Ice and Fire books. Like, guys, no, that is like the crusty old war veteran talking about how it used to be. Okay, that's not a happy story. That's definitely not
like,
that's a pity story.
We got at least on a Song of Ice and Fire book a decade.
Have you read those, Song of Ice and Fire?
Yeah, I haven't read them in a while. I've read them twice, but I started reading. I probably read them for the first time at a probably not responsibly young age. Like,
right.
Probably shouldn't read a Song of Ice and Fire that age, but whatever. I turned out okay. I am expecting. I like a Song of Ice and Fire. I'm expecting to like it more when I next go reread it again. I generally like that style of fantasy more than I used to. Kind of 14-year-old me generally preferred slightly faster paced stuff, more high magic stuff, more straightforward writing. It's nice that the series I liked then, I still like, sometimes for slightly different reasons. Like, young me loved Dresden because like it was super fun, and now probably subconsciously for other reasons. And now current me is like, the characters in this are so damn good. Like, yeah. Dresden is I think better than it has any right to be based on the premise. But I need to reread A Song of Ice and Fire, but I kind of told myself I might break this, that I will reread A Song of Ice and Fire when either we have a Winds of Winter release date or we have confirmation that we will never have a Winds of Winter release date.
I mean, I say I'm going to stop doing this reread stuff, but I was like, it's been 10 years since the last book. I'm going to have to reread this series to remember half of this shit, you know? So yeah, I plan on, kind of like what I've said with Red Rising, is when I get a release date for a new book, I'll go back and do, you know, a reread of each one. Of course, those are much lower commitment than, you know, Song of Ice and Fire books, but I want to. I mean, it's one of my three favorite series of all time. You know, of course, I'll have no problem going back and reading those, even Feast for Crows, which was a very, very tough read. But, you know, hey,
yeah, I'm kind of
imagine waiting 6 years and getting Feast for Crows.
Yeah,
it's kind of how people felt about waiting that long getting Crossroads of Twilight.
You know? Yeah, waiting for Crossroads of Twilight, that would have been rough.
Yeah, because I mean, when I binge read it, I was like, it's not nearly as bad as people carried on about. I was like, hell, I thought Path of Daggers was worse. We're like, yeah, but you didn't have to wait 2 years, and that was what you got. That's a good point. That's a very, very fair point.
Yeah, I think it might be the same for a book that I really like, but it doesn't exactly answer a lot of questions, and that's Ghost Story. You know, there are some things that happen and changes, and I imagine people reading it were like, okay, I want to know what's going on with this. Yeah. And then the book kind of didn't answer it. And now when people go through the first time, they just kind of read it and go like, this is really good.
Yeah, see, that was me. Everybody had me expect when I first started, I had two things that people told me. Three things. So one, the series gets better as it goes along, which is hard to say, but it really, really does. Two, just wait till you get to change something. Okay, I'll wait till I get to book 12. You know, I'm just starting today. And then they said, the whole series is great, except for Ghost Story, not so much. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think I don't know if it's because my expectations were lowered, or it's because I binge read it. I thought it was fantastic. It answered so many character questions I had about Harry. I loved it. That was a character study I've been waiting for. And after changes, you kind of need it. It's like when you watch a serialized TV show, and every once in a while they have like that Monster of the Week episode to kind of let you catch your breath. That's what it felt like. And I needed that. I needed that after changes, because you're just like mentally exhausted. It was me like trying to floor it after reading The Red Wedding. You know, you kind of needed to take a breath for a second. So I thought Ghost Story was great. But yeah, I can see if you waited.
Young me didn't love it. Young me was kind of like, eh. And then every time I reread it, I like it more. It's slowly sneaking up. At some point, it's randomly going to be like, get into like the top 5 Dresden.
How many times have you read this series?
An embarrassingly large amount. Okay, so generally when I reread Dresden, I don't reread the entire series. What happens is, if I feel a reading slump coming, specifically if I'm reading a book I like when I read it, it's good, but I don't feel a motivation to read, Dresden kills the slump. I just pick up like Small Favor. I read that and like really quickly, and then maybe Turncoat changes. I read like 1 to 5 Dresden books, and then the slump is over. So Dresden is my comfort read. Reading slump is coming. Kill the slump. So I've read it a shocking amount of times. For some of them I've only read like a couple times. Like I don't reread Full Moon very often.
Yeah, sure.
I'll usually skip Blood Rites. In 2020 I did all of them just because I hadn't read like Stormfront, Full Moon, or Blood Rites in a long time. But I've read Changes 11 times, which is aggressive. But
I think if I was doing a reread, I would do the 3 Denarium books for sure, because that's my favorite books are those. And probably Changes again, because I mean, why would
Changes?
So, I don't know. It's like, just like with Gwynne, this is the first time I've had to wait, and I know that people are like, "Oh, fuck you, man," because you had to wait forever for peace talks, and then people got even more mad because I got a review copy before them, and they've been waiting for 5 years.
Yeah, I wasn't mad, but I was kind of just like,
fuck him. Yeah.
I was kind of like, really? I want the review.
So when I say, "Oh, this is the first time I got to wait," they're like, "Oh, poor baby," and they're right. They're justified. It's how I'd feel if there was a review copy for Wins a Winner out there and I wasn't one of the first to get it. I would be pissed off about this. So yeah, I get it. But yeah, I remember that's one of those series. I'm glad that I didn't say, "I'll wait till it'd be done," or I'm not reading 16 books. I'm glad that I did that one, because I think that was a really fun adventure. It really was, because in me being a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, I was like, this feels like a variation of Buffy and Angel and Hellblazer, John Constantine. This is everything I was kind of looking for, and just a fun, like you put, a comfort read. And now I'm sad I don't have any more, And everybody's like, "Oh, read the side stories." Yes, I should read the side stories. You're right.
It tricks you as well, because it tricks you into thinking like, I won't be super emotionally invested in this, but whatever, like it's fun. And then it starts to ramp up and you're just like, oh.
I think I got to Death Mask when the first time I was like, "Oh, this is one of those kind of series. I didn't see that coming." Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Great ride through that series. And definitely one I can't recommend enough to people. And it's basically the one that I've been told a million times. Hey, by the way, did you know that James Marsters does the audiobook shows? He played Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, I'm aware. Every single review I did for that series, you will find that in the comments somewhere.
I see people all the time go, Dresden wouldn't be the same like without James Marsters. And I'm like, I still haven't read it with James Marsters. So it's still pretty damn good. I'm telling you.
Do you audiobook at all?
No, my brain can't. I drifts off.
That's why people are like, how can you say you have like ADD, but you read so much? Like, well, you can have listening ADD and not eyes ADD. I don't know.
It's also like, even if I am focusing on something, like the big moments just don't land the same on audio. Because one of the only audios I've done, I used my Audible free trial to get Changes on audio, because I had a long drive, was out of data, and I'm like, I'll just listen to like the last 2 hours of Changes as I go. Which was a good idea, but it just doesn't hit the same as reading Changes. I don't know why. I don't know why my brain is like this, even though like I can listen and be like, yeah, James Marsters is really good at this. It's just not the same.
I think for me, it's just years of like listening to the radio or listening to podcasts. You could be thinking about something else that's going on, and who cares? We're talking about a podcast. And you try to do that with, like, these people were trying to do this with Malazan. I'm like, how? How do you keep that information in your head? I don't even.
Their brain is more powerful than mine.
It must be. It must be. And I don't fall in the whole like, "Oh, well, audio booking isn't reading," because I think that's just stupid elitist stuff. I don't even care. Consume the story however you want. I mean, I'm not going to tell my kids, when I read them Harry Potter, well, this doesn't actually matter because you're not reading it, So I don't know, but yeah, there's so few of us that are eyes only.
I'm envious of the audiobook people. I wish I could do audiobooks. That means whenever I'm doing something that doesn't require sound but requires concentration, I could have an audiobook in the background. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can use headphones at work. That'd be great to be able to, have some. I think about that every time I'm doing like dishes or something. I'm like, I wish I saw the audiobook people that, the booktubers that come on here and said, "I read 47 books last month." I'm like, what?
No.
Yeah. So yeah, sure. It'd be nice to go.
So
do that.
Curse you, audiobook people. You don't know how nice you have it.
Right. You're lucky. Your brains are just more developed than mine, I guess.
They're just better at that thing. But
so you want to talk about Lord Ruler Sanderson here? I don't think I ever have to twist your arm to talk about Sanderson. So did you start with Mistborn or did you start with Stormlight?
I did. Mistborn was really the thing that got me into like reading like epic adult fantasy where I was just kind of, I didn't really know what my favorite genre was before I read Mistborn. And then I read Mistborn. I was like, I want more
Yeah,
of
I
this.
think it was the first time I had kind of got Song of Ice and Fire. Of course, I was always like, nothing's ever gonna be as good as this. And then I found First Law as kind of thing, and I was like, I love this, but I was always like, I don't want to go back to that, kiddie stuff. That's how I felt after I had read A Song of Ice and Fire, First Law. I don't want to go to anything that's like PG and like that. But a friend of mine, real big Brandon Sanderson guy, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll read First Law if you read Mistborn." And of course, I read all three of them, like back to back to back, and loved them. And that kind of started my love affair with it. I want to know if I go back to it now, if because I get a lot of comments. I did my video a while back about why you should read Mistborn, and I get a lot of comments about like I just would not expect you to like this, Mike. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I'm some like Dark Lord or something?
And like Mistborn, it's one of those series that is better on reread as well. Because
I think so too, because he foreshadows so much in that series.
Yeah, and there's so many characters that you see in a different light when you kind of understand them better. I don't think it's a spoiler to say this character is better in book one of Mistborn. Kelsier, I think you understand Kelsier way better when you've like read through. And so in book one, like so many of this is what happens a lot for Sanderson rereads. You realize people are kind of more of a dick than you realized, but you were in their perspective and they had such a biased look on themselves. And you're like, wow, you actually kind of suck a little bit. You just don't realize you suck a little bit. And that happens a lot with Mistborn. So yeah, I love Mistborn. I think I always will love Mistborn. I'm sure I have some nostalgia like clouding me for Mistborn, but
I think because that was the series that brought me back. Just read. It's okay. It's still okay to read traditional fantasy. It is, and I again, it was the first time I'd ever seen a magic system quite like that. And it's funny thing about the Mistborn magic system was like at first I'm like, okay, wait. He just used this and this. And I'm like looking at the elemental chart at the front of the book and stuff like that. For about like, I don't know, 300 pages of that, I was just like, they're fighting. So I know that you being the big hard magic system guy, do you still like get all into studying it and stuff? When
I don't know if I study it, but like I can follow the action scenes at this point, which they tend to be really cool. I find extremely creative uses of magic to be extraordinarily satisfying. I will say, I like Sanderson hard magic. I really like all his books. Almost every other series I read that has like a super hard magic system eventually devolves into it seems like the thing I'm supposed to care about is the magic system. Like, except for like Evan Winter's The Burning has a decently hard magic system, but it's 2 books. So, and I think it'll be fine. But like the other 2 big ones that I can think of is Lightbringer, which
amazing magic system. Amazing.
Yeah, and Foundry side. Yeah. And Foundry side, or The Founders by Robert Jackson Bennett, which apparently his other series, this is what Pranav or Child of Honor or whatever you want to tell him, he's like, why is everyone reading The Founders? Like Divine Cities is so much better. Apparently it has a soft magic system and it actually like stays good throughout. I thought like for Shorefall, which is I DNF'd this year, it felt like the only thing to enjoy about it was the magic system. And that's what tends to happen with really hard magic systems. But it hasn't happened for any of the Cosmere books. It happened for some. Some people find it with Rhythm of War. For me, it hasn't.
We're gonna bang heads. Rhythm of War. I was like, I don't care this much about the science of the magic. I don't care this much about it, and that's where it kind of lost the plot for me because I'm there for Sanderson. I'm there for the characters. The magic system is great, but I never felt like it overpowered the characters like it did for me.
So
he's 3 for 4 for me in that series. I'm still excited to read book 5, especially since the next book's going to be Zeth. I'm very, very excited for that. Obviously.
I'm obviously excited for that as well. I will say,
I think I'm out after this arc. I don't think I'm going to do this. I don't want to go with the lift arc. Sorry, I'm not down with the lift side of the story in the second half of the series. I don't know.
We'll see how
I say that now.
We'll see. I will say for the Rhythm of War, the reason I still really like that stuff because I love Rhythm of War. It's not my favorite Stormlight book, but I love all 4 of them a lot. Mm-hmm. I think the magic system, like the magic stuff, is crucial for the interactions between Navani and and Raboniel, the character who gets introduced there. And I love their dynamic in that book. And I don't think that dynamic works the same without the magic being that way, which I think is true for what might actually be my favorite integration for a magic system, which is the Emperor's Soul. Can I point at it looking at the camera?
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
Which is what I think Sanderson kind of does better for the hard magic systems, where it doesn't feel like he came up with the story for the Emperor's Soul and then he added a hard magic system. Like, that entire story doesn't work without the magic system. The magic is tied into the plot, theme, character, and world. Like, it literally, none of it works without it. And I think that tends to be true for a lot of characters, while Lightbringer, on the other hand, as a comparison, sorry, Lightbringer fans, but I think it's true. It kind of feels like he had this really cool magic system. And so he comes up with a story. And then after the story, he's like, all right, now we're going to add the magic system, which is really cool. But I just don't find it to be as tied into the narrative. Like, the Sanderson books, if you remove the magic system, it doesn't work.
What's the planet that Elantris takes place on called? Do you know?
Cell, I think.
Something like that. He talked about revisiting Elantris, and I'm like, can we just revisit the Emperor's Soul side of that planet instead?
I think he's doing that as well.
Because I'd rather that, because Elantris, back when I thought that Brandon Sanderson was invincible, like the guy could do no wrong, and then I decided to read everything, and then I went all the way back to the beginning and I read Elantris, and I'm like, well,
yeah.
And again, what I said then is like, if that's the worst thing that he's ever done, well, then I think that he's a gift and we don't deserve him. Now, I haven't read anything outside of the Cosmere. Have you read anything outside of the Cosmere?
I've read a couple things. I've read the Reckoners trilogy and the first two Skyward books. The Reckoners, which are both YA, they're really fun. Like, they're entertaining. They're not, I don't think they're particularly spectacular or anything like,
Yeah, I figured I wasn't the target demographic for those.
You're not.
I love Ender's Game, and everybody keeps saying that series is very much inspired by Ender's Game. So I've flirted with the idea. But
kind of world-wise, I don't know if it's inspired in terms of like stylistically or like cross appeal. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna say for sure you dislike it, but I would. If let's put it this way, if you did dislike it, I would then not be surprised by you disliking it. I wouldn't be like, oh, shocking, I didn't see that.
I'm pretty, I don't know. With some stuff I go into, and it's like, people think that I just despise YA. And I'm like, no, I despise YA tropes. I hate love triangles. I hate insta love. I hate wish fulfillment. That's the stuff that drives me nuts. But just because it's aimed at, 15-year-olds, that doesn't bother me. Sometimes I'm like, I look at that as, like a snack. It's no big deal. Everyone likes some popcorn once in a while instead of a steak. That's fine with me. I have no problems with that. But yeah, I tried to read that Lee Bardugo series. And guys, look, I know that I'm not the target demographic for that. I went into that and I was just like, yeah, like I can't get it out of my brain. But the show was actually pretty decent.
I haven't even watched the show. I don't watch that much TV.
It was a better adaptation than Wheel of Time was.
I've heard the show is really good. But I just don't watch that much TV.
What about sci-fi? You do any sci-fi?
So I do sci-fi, but most of the sci-fi that I really like is basically fantasy in its storytelling style, but with science swords instead of magic swords, right? Like Sun Eater, Red Rising, kind of Dune.
Yeah.
Ish.
I've had that award for people forever. I'm like, hey, it's called the best-selling science fiction novel of all time because it's science fiction. But if you want, I think Rocky could classify it as science fantasy. And I'm like, okay, I think that Dune is pretty much, that's the science fiction book that's good to start with fantasy fans. I think that's the way I would probably put it. But yeah, Red Rising I think is very much
Red Rising
sci-fi.
as well.
But I can see where people come from with that. But what about Hyperion? You done that one?
Yeah, I read Hyperion. I'm similar boat as you. I really loved Hyperion book, like the first one, and then I still liked book 2, but it was kind of
that's why I tried to get across. And I don't know how well I did it because it sounded like I just hated it. It was like I liked Fall of Hyperion, just it was not the story I wanted. Not after book 1. Book 1 was just fantastic.
Yeah, it kind of felt like for book 1, if you look at my ranking of the short stories of which I like the most, all the ones I liked the least were the most important for book 2, and then all the ones I liked the most just kind of continued a little bit. It just kind of wrapped up what they were already doing.
Yeah, it's a shame. You gonna continue with that series, Endymion?
Eventually. But it felt like a duology. I've heard Endymion is like a completely different series, so I might continue it in the distant future. But right now, I'm just going to call it a duology in my head and leave it for.
I don't know. I think Rockio sold me on doing Ilium by him instead, by Dan Simmons, because he says it's basically the Odyssey with robots, and I'm like, well, shit, that sounds great.
That does sound pretty cool.
And Brachio seems to know what it is we like. So, hey, Sun Eater. So, what you can't talk about, obviously, the new one. If you had to rank it, though, where are you putting it in that series?
So Demon in White is my favorite, then Kingdoms of Death, then Howling Dark, then Empire of Silence.
Wow. Okay. See, Empire my favorite, but I do like. I
like all four.
Yeah, I like beginnings.
I like all four. I will say for Kingdoms of Death, it was with the last third left. I had it at like I liked it about as much as Howling Dark, and then it almost caught Demon in White with the final act and like denouement. It's literally one of the most like. I've given it this comparison. I've compared both Demon in White and Kingdoms of Death to A Storm of Swords, because Storm of Swords, compared to the other Song of Ice and Fire books, specific elements, not in terms of like how good that they are, although I like them similarly. But anyways, A Storm of Swords is better than the other A Song of Ice and Fire books for like two main reasons, right? One, everything that happens in it is compelling. Like cover to cover, there's just like no fluff in a 400,000 word book. And two, there's like some truly shocking stuff where you're just kind of like had to admire like the balls of George R. R. Martin. Like, holy crap, you actually did that. Demon in White to me was the compelling from cover to cover. Like literally like every chapter. Kingdoms of Death was the like, holy crap, you actually did that. Where I actually like, I went to work the next day and I was like, I'm mad that I can't talk to people at work about this, because not only has no one at work reads the books like this in general, but even if they did, they could.
That's another thing where people are like, oh, poor you get these review copies. Do you know how much it sucked to read Battleground 4 months before everybody else not be able to talk about
I'm living it right now with Kingdoms of Death.
I was destroyed by that book and I couldn't tell anybody, So yeah, that's the downside of getting review copies is, you're very excited because you get to do it first. But I've gotten, with this thing and with the Discord stuff, I like reading with other people. So that's why I decided to read Kingdoms of Death with other people. But it sounds like you're going to be, monitoring that thread as we go.
I will be reading all of the reactions.
You're going to be like me when people were freaking out watching Game of Thrones that had never read the books. And they were like, well, if this character dies, I'm going to flip tables. I'm sitting there like, oh, really?
Yeah, watching other people watch Game of Thrones was one of the most entertaining like pastimes ever.
Yeah,
where it's just like you can kind of just be like, yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think this first like season 3 and 4 when it first really blew up with like casuals. I think that I was like literally like, here's the TV and I'm just sitting here on the couch just watching them. They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I started watching the show and the books at like the same time, and then I was like, all right, I got to read these books because I always like reading the books first. If I have a choice, I will always read the books before a show. And then, but so I did. I don't think I knew what was going to happen while watching like season 1, but then for the seasons like 2, 3, 4, kind of 5, and then no one really knew what was going to happen. I kind of like mostly knew what was going to happen, and just kind of could be like, just waiting for certain moments to happen just to see what the reaction is. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, I was planning to do that with Wheel of Time too, but then they decided they just weren't going to follow the book. So
yeah, now I don't know what's going to happen.
So there we go. Now I don't get to know what's going to happen next. That's what makes it fun TV, right? Well, it's supposed to be fun. So Wheel of Time, you have read that, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So where would you put that on like your favorite series? Really high or really?
It would be high up there. I started a very slow reread of the Wheel of Time, and I kind of ended up taking a break because I wanted to hit my reading goal on Goodreads, and the next Wheel of Time book I had was Lord of Chaos, which is not a short book, and now I have like all these scheduled reads, so it keeps getting pushed back. I got slightly scared because the first 4 books I liked the second time basically as much as I liked them the first time. And then I did not I was expecting Fires of Heaven to actually be better on reread, and it was not.
Fucking Val and Luca. Oh
yeah. And it's actually like, I realized like it's not even the circus, it's the Zoom meetings. It's the Tar Zoom meetings. I've had enough. They're like every time it's just like first the person goes into Tar, their dress switches 7 times. And then, the other people show up. I can't say who they are. And they're like, this was stupid of you to do this, but we're not going to tell you why. And then the person in there is like, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm just like, you've done this before. Mm-hmm. Stop it.
That's why I said, I think I read the first 4 like real quick. And I said, okay, I'm going to take a break. and come back. And I came back in like a month, and I read 5 and I was not that impressed. But I was like, oh, but 6 is one of the best in the series, right? And
I love 6. Yeah.
I like the last first 2/3.
I'm one of the people. I like all of 6. I have a Discord reaction to prove it that I'm not just changing my mind in retrospective. I reacted like, I don't know, 2/3 into 6, like that this is my favorite Wheel of Time book so far. And then the end happened and it became comfortably my favorite of the first 6. But after Fires of Heaven, there's kind of 2 possibilities that could happen. And I don't know which it's going to be, because I was someone who, like, I liked 7 through 10 less than the other books, but the slog was barely a slog for me.
Yeah.
So the 2 things that can happen is A, Fires of Heaven is a one-off and actually ends up being like my second least favorite Wheel of Time book, which would be kind of funny, and people would probably get mad at me for that. I didn't really have any Wheel of Time hot takes the first time through, so that would be kind of fun. And the second is that the slog becomes a slog, and I'm really scared of that happening. And I don't want it to happen. And I keep pushing back my Wheel of Time reread. I'm fairly confident I'll love Lord of Chaos, because there's something that starts in Lord of Chaos. I can't say it here, but I can message you on Discord what it is. That is probably my favorite aspect.
A Wheel of Time reread, I'd get to like book 7, and then I would just slow down because I know that Path of Daggers is coming next. And that's my least favorite.
I'm weird. I actually really like Path of Daggers.
Oh my God. It's like really, it's page 400 and you guys are just now deciding, let's go to war. Could have done that on page 10, Jordan.
I like Path of Daggers. What can I say?
It's got a great cover. Great cover.
It does. It has like the second best cover. Probably
favorite cover, least favorite book. It's amazing.
I've actually the inverse, like all the worst covers are the best Wheel of Time books, in my opinion, at least. Like the worst covers
Knife of Dreams are like awful, but it's a
6, 11, and 12. 6, 11, and 12. They're my 3 favorite Wheel of Time books. They're the 3 worst covers. Like, they're awful.
Well, I mean, at least with Knife of Dreams, you got like Hobbit Parent, and then it's like trying to figure out who these like 90-year-old dudes are. These are like teenagers. What are you doing? All right.
Yeah, of all the things they could show in Knife of Dreams,
right?
They chose that scene.
Great scenes, yeah. And then you got 12. It's just like that looked like leftover, like doing like concept art or something. It was like that's so lazy.
I want to know who decided to do that scene for Knife of Dreams. It's almost like they were like, "What's the least like iconic scene in Knife of Dreams?" Which characters are who are in Knife of Dreams technically, but play like the smallest role in Knife of Dreams? Let's pick those ones and that scene. And I'm just like, okay.
Well, I kind of feel the same way about Gathering Storm. That book, I think I put like a top 10 best moments in that. And the one they've got on there, I'm like, I don't know if that's the one I would have put, and especially have like the reverse arm.
Yeah, like old man yells at cloud. Yeah, and that's my favorite Wheel of Time book. And there's so many cool things they could have had on that cover. Like, have you seen the I have the trade paperback for the Sanderson books, and like the trade paperback covers are fantastic, including the Gathering. Like no, for Wheel of Time, like the Wheel of Time ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like those re-releases they were doing, like the silver spines.
With the, I'm just gonna grab it 1 second. With like, this is Towers of Midnight with these covers.
Yeah, they were selling those in like 3-packs for a while. Yeah.
Also, they're extremely floppy paperbacks, which I'm a fan of.
I love the trade paperbacks. Like, I don't like mass market, but I love the trade paperback because you can open them completely up.
Yeah, they just sit on.
They don't crack. Yeah,
that's why I got annoyed by a series I was reading, because they're special editions and they're hardcovers that don't stay open. Who invented that? It's the Green Bone Saga Illumicrate editions, which look really nice, but they're hardcovers that don't stay open, and they're special editions. Why? Who thought that was a good idea?
I didn't know there was hardcovers that would automatically close, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't either until I read Jade
like
Legacy.
Spring-loaded spine or something?
They're just not bound very well.
So what about that series? I have a lot of people that recommend that series.
I think you'll really like it. I think you'll really like it. I don't think, you should go in expecting that you're going to become a Green Bone Saga channel, but I would be like, I think if you still did give star ratings, you'd probably give all 3 books 4 stars. I'm not going to say like that I would bet on it being in your top 10, but if it ended up in your top 10, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, that's
it's just really good. It doesn't really have any weaknesses. Like, it, in my opinion, like there's no parts that of pacing that I thought were like bad. The world is interesting. It's I don't know. It's a secondary world urban fantasy. So it's kind of like 1960s technology-ish, although it takes place over a long time. But just the characters are really well written. They're really distinctive. They have really good development and really good relationships. It's just, man, it's really good.
You have me at good characters. That's all I really need. But this is going to sound so stupid because I'm not trying to compare these two series, but it seems like everyone that was recommended that series to me really loved Poppy War, and Poppy War was one of my biggest disappointments. So
I think it's way better than Poppy War. I like the Poppy War.
Hope.
I like the Poppy War, but when someone was like, "Oh, what should I read? Greenbone or the Poppy War?" I was like, "Well, I think Greenbone is way better, so I recommend Greenbone." But
I didn't even read Poppy War 3. Like I said, Poppy War 2. Everybody told me that it didn't get better, so I was like,
"Yeah, if you don't like 2, I wouldn't continue." So, like, I'd say if someone doesn't like 1, I could see them liking 2 because they're kind of different. If like you don't like the school stuff, which was actually the bit I was worried about you not liking.
No, I like a magic school or a battle school.
It's because
I'm crazy about that.
Someone has pointed this out before, but a bunch of the characters in the school section of like the Poppy War, like all the teachers have a name of the wind equivalent.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's actually like someone was kind of like at the school part, it's kind of budget name of the wind. And I was kind of like, I literally referred to someone as budget Eladin. Eladin is like, you're not don't care the name of the wind. Anyways, so I was worried about you for that part.
Name of the Wind from my memory to a point to where I feel like if I do revisit Name of the Wind, the different set of expectations, I might like it more. I'm never going to be my favorite book. I'm never going to say I think it's amazing like everyone else does, but I would enjoy it more.
I think it's hard to convince yourself to reread something when like the best case scenario is like, it was pretty good.
Especially since that's not a light read, you know?
Yeah, but, and they're really long, 2,000-page books that might never get a conclusion. Best case scenario, they were pretty good.
So I have the really safe bet right now where I said if he puts out book 3, I'll read them all. I'll read them all, you know. So I'll read the first one again.
Probably gonna lose that eventually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if booktube will still be a thing by then, but you know.
Probably come out eventually. But
I don't know. But
I feel weird for Name of the Wind because for Name of the Wind, I find people who read book 1 and it's just like, what is even the point of the story? I hated this. Or I just didn't like it at all. And I find people who are like, both of these books are like amazing and they're some of the best things I've ever read. And I'm just kind of like, I like Name of the Wind. I enjoy it. I don't get bored while reading it, but it's like it's not among my favorites ever. And I feel
the same with Liza Locklemore. Everybody thinks that's fantastic. I thought, or they think it's shit, and I think it's just fine.
Yeah, I love Liza Locklemore. I think I wouldn't recommend you continue because I think each book was worse than the last. But I love book 1.
I like the dialogue. I like the characters. I just didn't like the narrative. I thought the narrative was really screwy, and I felt like
the flashbacks bothered you, right?
And it has that problem. I feel like ever since Joe Abercrombie got big, I feels like every grimdark author has to, okay, well, I've got to have a high body count. And I feel like in that book, he killed off characters before I had a chance to really like them. So it didn't really have the same weight with me. So I don't know. That was my problem. But that's another series. I ain't got to worry about it because that sounds like it's ever going to be. I'm glad that the 2 series, it seemed like they're never going to get finished besides Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, is, Liza Locklemore, Gentleman Bastards, and the, was it King Killer Chronicles? Yeah. So cool. Well, those are 2 to not really be crazy about, I guess.
Yeah, I've got all my favorites are either like relatively productive authors or complete.
What are some series that you haven't done yet that are on your radar though?
Book of the New Sun.
Yeah.
I feel like trying that one. I'm just gonna quickly bring up something. I had an entire list and now I'm blanking on it because of course.
I have an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I do too. Because I made a video that's like, these are the series like I will read. The Expanse. Yeah. That's one that I got to get to.
I'm with you where I usually like to read the book before I see the adaptation, but I felt like I was loving The Expanse so much where I felt like I'm just ruining all the surprises. So I decided to wait till the show was over. So I don't have an excuse anymore. I've only read 2 of them, but I liked them a lot.
Yeah, I got to read those. I'm going to read Lycanius.
I think you'll dig that. I do. I think you'll like that.
Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abrams. Alan has me extremely hyped for that one. The series
right there. Yeah.
The series you're not going to read, Broken Earth. That's actually what I'm probably going to start next. Broken Earth, the Jemison series. Curse of the Challeon. That's just one I see compared to Hob a lot, so I'm like, sure, I'm down. I'm doing. Have you heard A Memory Called Empire? That's like
I've
book
heard
one.
of it a lot. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's a few people reading it in March, so I'm doing that with
How
them.
about that dandelion one? You doing that?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. It kind of got on my radar really recently.
Yeah, same.
You know when you go with a series where like you go from I've never heard of that
And then you
series,
hear it everywhere.
and then within a month you see it like everywhere. That's what happened to me with that. Like I'd never heard of it. Maybe I'd seen it like once, and now suddenly it's like everyone is reading it. This is what happened to me with John Gwynne. Like I'd never heard of John Gwynne, and then I saw a ton of like 5-star reviews for A Time of Courage. I saw a bunch of Petrik's reviews. You read it, and I saw your reviews, and then suddenly, like, I saw it everywhere, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll read it.
Yeah. Seems to happen like that, but yeah, I'd never even heard of Ken Liu or this dandelion thing until recently, and now it's like everywhere. So I thought, yeah, let me see if I can fit those in. And I was like, those are like 1,400 page books. I'm cool for now. Yeah,
they're big,
some
but
big boys.
There's a lot of long books. Where fantasy, we have a skewed perspective on how long a normal book.
I think so because now I'll get a book like I did my review of the Justice of Kings, and I was like, yeah, it's just barely over 400 pages, and it's like that's the point where that's a short book.
That's a long book for most people. Yeah, I remember in early 2021, and I'd started by reading like ridiculously long books because I'd read like the last 4 Malazan books, a bunch of Realm of the Elderlings, like Tigana, Brian Lee Durfee books, and I got to The Burning God. And I was like, oh, a nice short book. It's a 600-page hardback.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I am with like a Stephen King book as well. I'm like, oh yeah, it's less than 400 pages. It's one of the shorter ones, So.
Yeah, we have a very skewed perspective.
I think so. That's why I always kept, Crichton books and kept King books and Anne Rice and stuff between these big crazy tomes because it kept me feeling like, yeah, it's nice to not finish one 1,200 page book and be like, okay, here's the next one. Oh, it's only 1,100 pages, So door stoppers, as I like to call them.
That's why I was behind on my reading goal because I started the year in 2021 with 4 Malazan books.
And they were the last 4?
Yeah, it was the Bone Hunters Through the Crippled God. I was just like, oh no, 5 Malazan books. I was just
like 20 regular books right there.
Yeah, exactly. And then my March, I've never had like a more buddy read obligation felt, and it includes To Green Angel Tower, which is 3 books. Like it's 520,000 words.
I think that book is bigger than the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, comfortably.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's literally, it's like I don't know, it's like Way of Kings plus a Mistborn book.
Are you going to be cutting it in half, or are you reading it straight through?
So I'm going to be reading it straight through, but I'm going to start it in late March, so I'll probably finish it in April.
That's wild. I said no. I feel like I'll burn myself out if I read something that long. It would take me the whole month probably to do that. So yeah. Plus, I've got Kingdoms of Death I want to read, that month. So I want to make sure that I'm clear to start that the day that it comes out.
I kind of. Yeah, I mean, you can just read it a couple days before it comes out and try and finish it on the day it comes out, because then you can talk with the fast people and see all the reactions.
Oh, yes. So, Jordan messaged me, said that you wanted us and Rockio to have a
spoiler talk. I think that sounds fun. It's super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just sit there and just nod and smile when all you and Rockio and Jordan get all like prophetic and philosophical, and I'll just be like, it'd be like me talking to Philip Chase, like, yeah, just nod and smile. Act like
I would not put myself in the same tier as Philip Chase.
Well, who would?
Hi, Philip, if you're watching.
We're gonna be talking about Beowulf, okay? Yeah, I'm ready to feel like a simpleton. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, talking with Philip Chase about Beowulf is like going to a lecture about it. It's like he's teaching Beowulf, and you're just like, I have a question, Professor.
I'll be interested in your feedback on Lycanius, because I thought it was great. And it seems like everyone that was real big Wheel of Time fans just went into that like wanting to hate it because of a blurb on the cover that said, if you like Wheel of Time, this will be your new favorite series. So they kind of went with their arms crossed and they hate it. When I read it, I was like, this feels like probably like pre-Elantris Brandon Sanderson level. I was like, this is a debut author, but I also felt like this could be something I can see taking place in the Cosmere. The magic system is something a little lighter for like a Sanderson, but the way that the characters done, the way the land is developed and stuff, I really felt like that. And that book has some of the biggest twists that I've ever seen, and it has the most satisfying ending I've read in modern fantasy. So I'll be anxious to hear what you think of that. And they're big boys, so I expect you to take at least like 5 days to read that whole series.
A lot of people read faster than me. It just looks like I read faster because for the big series, like I don't really get burnt out for a big series, so it looks like I read super fast because of how fast I get through like a
I
big
thought
series.
that I did good getting Dragon Bone Chair and Stone of Farewell done in about 10 days a piece, and I think that you did in like 3. So yeah.
No, Stone of Farewell, I actually read kind of in around the same amount of time because I had like a bunch of schoolwork. So I think Stone of Farewell was like 11 days. I was not particularly fast for Stone of Farewell. Dragon Bone Chair, I was pretty quick.
So you in undergrad right now?
Yeah.
How much longer you got?
This is my last semester, so I'm almost done.
It's exciting, right? See, I was doing this channel my last 2 years of doing that just to feel safe, feel like I had an escape from school. And I couldn't imagine trying to read some of these heavy reads. I don't know what your major is, but I couldn't imagine trying to do like Malazan or something while I was doing like fucking business statistics or something. I'd have probably lost my mind. So
it's why when I like kind of my major is like economics, when a book gets all like economics, it's not like cool, that's what I know about. It's like, this feels like school.
That's what I said when I was Midnight Tides and parts of Reaper's Gale. I'm like, I don't care about the economy. I think it's really great he's writing the stuff in here, but I feel like I'm at work right now. I don't need to
that was Reaper's Gale especially had like a lot of that, and I was just kind of like, this feels like schoolwork. Why am I reading about this? This is what I have to read about. I'm one of the people for Reaper's Gale where I love the ending of Reaper's Gale, like the back half, the last 2 parts. It was kind of, if you split it into 2 books, like the first book, I would have been like, all right, yeah, that was a book that exists. And if there was a book that was just the back half, that would have been like one of my favorites in the series. But it's one of the Malazan books that you see. It's probably one of the lower ranked Malazan books. I very rarely see someone be like, Reaper's Gale is like my favorite Malazan book. It's usually either middle of the pack or low on the pack.
It's dead last in mine. Yeah. But, what about Sullivan? Have you read any Michael J. Sullivan yet?
I haven't. That's actually someone else that's on my list for.
I think that you would probably treat that like a Dresden Files. I say he's very much the comfort read of fantasy authors. It's not lazy, but it doesn't feel like he doesn't spend 200 pages with info dumps or nothing. He's very, very much straightforward. And I think Writer of Revelations just has 2 of the most likable characters I think I've read in fantasy. So yeah, I think you'd wipe those out pretty quick. But I haven't heard very many people read Writer of Revelations that didn't at least like it. So
yeah, it seems like it's very unlike, like I meet very few people, maybe Madison, she loved that, who are like, Writer of Revelations is like one of my top 3 favorite series ever. But I also see very few people. It's like the opposite of Divisive.
Yeah.
You see some books like I think the most 5-star, 2-star author I've seen is Gavriel Kay, which I don't know.
I brought that up. I said it feels like everyone either absolutely loves GGK or they can't stand GGK. And people are like, I've never seen anyone say they can't stand GGK. I'm like, yeah. Run a YouTube channel. You'll hear things that you don't usually hear from people, guys.
I've seen it. I mean, I see it all the time. I think, I've kind of started getting into him. I'm doing a Gavriel Kay book a month, because I read Tigana in 2021, loved it. Read Alera like months later, loved it even more. And so I was like, all right, I'll do them all in publication.
Rocky sent me one. I can't even remember what it is, but that I have.
Yeah, the 2 most common entry points are, he's kind of like, it tends to be history based, except for Fionavar, which don't start with Fionavar. It's very different to everything else, and it's not as good. Although you're one of the people who I could see really liking Fionavar, because one of the things that I struggled with Fionavar is Fionavar incorporates a lot of like Arthurian stuff. And I felt like I was missing out on some stuff due to my lack of knowledge about Arthurian stuff. But I think you've mentioned that would not be a problem for you.
Yeah, no, I love the Morte Arthur. I love the Arthurian legend. In fact, I'm going to be reading the Bernard Cornwell take on it here in May. I think I'm going to do the whole trilogy in May. You read any Cornwell yet?
I haven't. That's another one that I had barely heard of, and now suddenly I see everywhere. But everyone seems to
obviously
like it.
I love The Last Kingdom, the TV series. So I said, I would like to read, what these are based off of. And I was like, I'm not doing another 13-book series right now. And they said, well, we'll start with this. It's just a trilogy and it's based off of the Arthurian legend. So that's a good sell.
Yeah,
and
I know
everyone on the Discord is crazy about Bernard Cornwell, it seems like. So I'm interested.
I haven't seen someone dislike him yet.
Everyone when I talked to John Gwynne, he's the one that just said that's like one of his main influences was Bernard Cornwell. So, but I think besides that, The Cradle by Will White is the series I get recommended the most, like nonstop. I
Yeah, I
mean,
see that
people
a
have
lot.
sent me the first 8 books just to convince me to read. I feel like I can't put them off much longer. Very much seems like the
Yeah,
fandom is very Dresden Filesy, and that they're serious about this. They are dead
yeah.
serious about it.
It's kind of, it sounds like it's something that starts as like a super fast paced read and then gets better than it has any right to be.
Yeah, yeah. I think they, even Patrick was telling me, he's like, I hate saying this to people, but he's like book 3 and 4, it just kind of hits a new level. So you just got to kind of, it's like those books. He says it's kind of like Dresden Files, and like those first couple of books aren't bad, except in hindsight. You'll look back and be like, oh, there was nothing really special, because I don't think I went into it and I was like, I thought Stormfront and Full Moon were fine, but yeah,
It's kind
looking
of
back at it, I'm
jarring
like,
on
yeah,
reread when
they're
you've
just
read
kind
changes.
of simple, in hindsight. But I did enjoy them. But yeah, these Cradle books, people just won't stop talking about it. I kind of read like a synopsis of it, and I was like, this sounds like a fantasy version of an anime or something. So
I've heard that comparison
yeah, so
quite a
we'll
lot.
see how that goes for me, because I'm still very new to manga and stuff, and I don't watch anime, so we'll see how that goes. But
That's one of those in my long term plans, where it's kind of for. So I invented this by me, the cycle of Dresden fans. This is what I see happen this all the time. Is they read like the first few books and they're kind of like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna ever be my favorite. Like, it's fine. I call this the skeptical case, and they're kind of like, I'm sick of everyone telling me how much better this gets. And then you get to the false peak stage where they read, probably like, I guess, like, death mass through proven guilty, somewhere in that realm. They're like, okay, this was damn good. Like, I hope the series can keep up this much quality. I totally see the appeal. And all the people who are caught up are then extremely smug at that point, because then the next stage is loud screaming,
yeah,
usually found at changes, and then the final stage is annoyance. And annoyance is when you now are the fan telling everyone that how much better it gets,
right.
and not being believed, because you're like, I was where you are.
I've told people, I promised myself, because of this, I will never tell someone when they're first starting, just wait till you get the changes, because I think that's rude to tell someone, hey, wait till you get to book 12 in this series.
Yeah.
But I will. I'm guilty of being like, it really does get better and
And
better.
it's also like, I find the way it's sometimes described is slightly counterproductive, where people describe it as like it's bad, and then suddenly at pick whatever book you want to, 3, 4, 5, or 7 are the most common. Suddenly it's really good. Well, I don't think there's any like sudden jumps. I think it just kind of steadily keeps getting better.
Yeah, I felt
forever.
like the first 5 felt like different genres almost every single time. They felt very, very different. Whereas I felt like 6 is where it really started. Like, it's, the stuff with Thomas and stuff. It started, it's real, just, it is going to build its own mythology, and you're going to kind of be following, you're going to have your case still, your Dresden file, but you got the overarching thing going on there. And I think that's where it really, really started for me.
I think most of the overarching stuff, like 1 and 2, have very little overarching stuff. They're kind of almost like a prologue to when the story starts. Grave Peril starts like 8 subplots. When you first read it, you'll be like, this starts a couple subplots that are going to take 10
yeah,
books.
See, everybody told me it didn't get really good until summer night. But for me, it was Grave Peril, and I think that's because I like Michael. Michael was like my favorite Buffy guy, so I love Dresden and vampires. Give me all that stuff. So I'm all about it. But I hate to tell someone stuff like this because it sounds ridiculous. It sounds like the Malazan fans being like, "Hey, wait till you get to book 6." Tell people, if you get through Deadbeat and you're not in love with the series, it might not be what you're looking.
Yeah, it's very unlikely.
That's the peak of like, this is how crazy the series can get. You don't get much more crazy than a specific scene with Butters in that book. So it
yeah. And like Deadbeat, it's not like in contention for my favorite Dresden book, but I find it hard to see how someone could like actually dislike Deadbeat and end up liking the series. I could see someone reading Deadbeat and being like, yeah, that was good, and then end up loving the series. But it would be hard to go from Deadbeat was bad to Dresden is really good.
Have you read anything else by Butcher?
Yeah, I've read everything Butcher has published at least twice.
We're starting Codex Alera in July, I think. We're going to do like 2 books a month, July, August, September, and like a group read. I think going into it, obviously, don't go into it expecting Dresden is probably the best advice that someone can give. But how do you? I feel like this is just my crazy theory here.
I've seen,
and I had the same thing with Ghost Story. Is I think that people don't like it as much because James Marshall doesn't do the audiobook. So as someone who's an eyes only guy, how would you say you felt about Codex?
I think the theory has merit. So this is what I'll say about Alera. it has the same thing in Dresden in that books 1 and 2 are, I think, the worst, but I think books 1 and 2 are still like good. I like the first 2 Alera books more than the first 2 Dresden books relatively comfortably. I don't think it ever gets as good as peak Dresden.
Sure.
But I think it gets to its peak faster, where I think book 3 is as good as anything in Alera. Might be, I think 5 is my favorite, might be 3, depends which day you ask me. But I think kind of 3, 4, 5, and 6 are extremely consistent in quality and all around the same. And then I think 2 is very good and is a clear step down from 3 and a clear step up from 1. And 1 I still think is a good book. It's kind of, I would think of it as kind of like Wheel of Time-ish in how it starts, but it's based on Rome. And so the Romans aren't like, all right, we're going to run away. The Romans are like, oh, you want this valley? You're going to have to come take it then.
Yeah, right.
Because the Romans aren't going to be like, yeah, we'll give up ground. This would be, now I'm getting Roman history in my head, but that's maybe a little bit.
Talk to Rocchio will give you a full breakdown of this.
I'm thinking like, oh, Diocletian reformed the Roman defense structure, but this would be pre-Diocletian. It's not important. It just means like they're for most of the Roman Empire, their policy for invasions was like, we're not giving up a step. Mm-hmm. Eventually they switched to, we'll tactically retreat and then retake it because this empire is unreasonably large. But this is kind of like, there's like a invasion coming and they're like, yeah, we're not, I know this is like this tiny part of the world. And he does the same thing as he does in Dresden, where he just sneakily introduces this crazy world where book 1, the scale is pretty small. Like it's like if the entire book took place in the 2 rivers. And then the world kind of expands, similar to as with Dresden. He just sneakily builds large worlds.
And it still feels like a Jim Butcher. Look, I know he's not going to have Romans cracking Star Wars jokes here. I mean,
it feels like you can tell it's the same author, but you can also, one thing I actually find kind of fun about Alera is you can see how much about Dresden is Harry Dresden, the character specific, and like how much of that voice is Harry Dresden's voice. But it definitely, like, you can tell it's the same author.
He's still remembering to have fun is what I guess what I meant.
Yes, it's still extremely fun. It's definitely like they're, Jim Butcher tends to be pretty page turny, kind of think like John Gwynne, like, where stuff is always happening. It one more chapters, quite a few. It's got short, fast chapters. I think book 1 would be the slowest, but book 1 isn't slow. And it's got, really good dialogue and character relationships. I really like the supporting cast of Alera, especially like the later supporting class. I think it doesn't, one thing I think Alera does very well is a lot of big series, the amount of POVs really expands. Jim, he does kind of rein himself in there, where I think he only adds like a couple POVs throughout the series.
It's not used to him doing anybody else as a POV.
He's, I think it's like 5 POVs in book 1, and it gets up to like 7.
Well, I think I was reading Aftermath, and you getting it from Murphy's perspective, and I was like, this is just weird. I can't do this. So yeah. I'm
kind of wondering for the big apocalyptic trilogy whether it's going to be all Harry still. It's probably just going to be all Harry. I think it would be really cool if it was like 90% Harry, and then like
Mouse.
I'll take Mouse POVs.
Yeah, sure. The Mouse spinoff. Yeah.
But yeah, I also think you'll really like Alera. You're one of the people I'm more confident we're liking it because the main story it's a coming of age story. Like the protagonist, it takes place over quite a few years. Jim Butcher, I think, is one of the best people at time skips, like in the genre, where every time skip, if you skip 2 years, it feels like 2 years of stuff has happened, not just to the protagonist, but like everyone you interact with. This one reason I think Dresden holds up so well. You won't see a character for 5 years, but then when Harry runs into them 5 years later, it feels like 5 years worth of stuff has happened to them. But it also doesn't feel like the stuff you skipped was like the good stuff.
Yeah.
Where you're not like, I kind of want a book about that.
I love that in Dresden Files. I was saying, like, it was kind of sucks sometimes when like my favorite characters don't show up for a couple of books, but I'm like, I like that. It feels real. People come in and out of your life quite frequently. I thought that was really helped that world feel bigger than it probably had any business being. And it's just I love it. But I just want Michael in every book, because Michael's Michael. It's my favorite character.
Michael is Michael. Also, one thing for Alera that's kind of interesting. One of the point of views it's similar to Liveship. One of the point of views is like the antagonist in book 1. He's actually, I think, my favorite character in that series. He's great.
So you say that you feel like we'll have a successful completion rate on this one?
I'm not going to say everyone will love it, but I think most people will. I think
people don't expect Dresden is the best advice you can really give them.
Yeah. And I think in terms of I don't think Jim is that good at starting series. Like he trades just not having middle book syndrome. Like he has no middle book syndrome. He like front loads it. He's like, the middle book, we're going to do Stormfront, Full Moon, and we're going to do Furies of Cauldron. And then after we get through that, it's just off to the races. It's one reason I'm really excited for Cinderspires, because the Aeronauts Windlass, like it wouldn't be one of my favorite Jim Butcher books, but it's somewhat comfortably my favorite first Jim Butcher book.
Is he writing one of those before the next Dresden?
Yeah, the next Jim Butcher book that comes out is going to be The Olympian Affair, that I've been waiting a long time for. So I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I need the next Dresden.
Yeah, well, the Cinderspires fans have been waiting longer than you have, Mike.
Yeah. So, you mentioned you read the Durfee books. I'm also doing those this fall. It seems like people are kind of divided on it on the server, and I've said, look, maybe some of you guys that like it, I know that Tim Gerard Reynolds is their audiobook guy and they love it. They don't like it. They don't dislike anything he's ever done. I'm like, how much of that is playing into how much you like it? And I swear that ain't it.
The audiobook.
So what did you think about it?
I think it's a really good series. It would be not quite an all-time favorite, but I think it's a really like impressive series that I really enjoyed. I think it has a good cast of characters. It's kind of on the more grimdark edge of the spectrum. Like it's a pretty dark world. It feels like, how would I describe it?
Brian himself told me it was like Faith on the Fallen, but grimdark.
Kind of. It's kind of the kind of like tropes and type of characters you follow are like the type of roles you would see in a more classic fantasy, but it takes like a more grim, dark, I guess heavy metal is the word used for that. I don't know about that, fantasy. But more grim, dark kind of version of those. I hadn't read Tad Williams when I read them. I now see in terms of like writing style, the comparison. It's got really interesting stuff focused on like religion. I think one of the things that you can really shows like his talent as an author is for like there's chapter epigraphs and they come from like in-world religious texts, and there's 4 main ones off the top of my head, and they all have their own like distinct voice. Like you don't need to read the libel, you can read it and you can be like, that's from that religious text. It's got some really good characters. Really, it's more world building focused than John Gwynne. It's quite a lot more. I mean, Faithful and the Fallen is the world is kind of the backdrop. I think that's actually almost the appeal of it. It's kind of the world is there, but spends very little time on it. Five Warrior Angels spends more time on the world, and I think has a really cool in-depth world.
I finally got a release date, November 22nd for that last.
Yeah, really cool cover. Great guy, got great covers.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, I don't do anime, but the art looks awesome. It looks like it could be like the front of a manga or something like that. So yeah,
I expect you'll like Five Warrior Angels.
He's such an awesome guy. I mean, even if I don't like it, I'm going to say that I do because he's awesome. No, that's not true. There are a couple more authors I want to ask you about that. If you've even been like interested in these, I don't think that you've read Richard Nell yet. The Ash and Sand books.
Oh no, I know nothing about
the first one, and it's one of those series that I think that when I talked to him, he said he didn't really go into it trying to make grimdark, and I'm like, it's ain't a spoiler because it's page 1. I was like, page 1, you have someone eating a child. Okay, so it's like you're telling me you didn't mean to make this grimdark on page 1. Okay, so that's a series I'd like to recommend that you check out because I'm going to be doing the other 2 books this fall, and I'm excited about it. But I don't know, I'd just be interested to hear your feedback on it. And have you read Peter Macklin?
Again, I don't know who that is.
The War for the Rose Throne. It's Priests of Lies.
Yeah, heard of it.
I've heard a lot of Greenbone fans say that it's kind of similar, except way, way, way more brutal. So
I'll probably read it eventually. Yeah. But
I feel like this community, we just pass these things around. But
you have so many series.
Yeah, there is.
That's why like the 3 I'm kind of waiting to see what you think of is Alera, Greenbone, and if you try like Guy Gavriel Kay, who has gone from I haven't read to like literally one of my.
Every time I do one of those videos where I say, "Hey, here's some standalones, some palette cleansers I'm going to do," and I don't put Guy Gavriel Kay, like literally every comment is like, "Where is GGK?" And I'm like, I just never think about it. I don't know. I don't. When I talked to Nicholas Eames, the guy that wrote Kings of the Wild,
Yeah,
he was just all
it's his favorite author.
Favorite, so that's what really put him on my radar. But same buddy that got me into Brandon Sanderson, he's the one who's been recommended Sagana to me for years.
Yeah, and I mean Brandon is a huge Guy Gavriel Kay fan as well. That's why I joke, I say Guy Gavriel Kay is like your favorite author's favorite author. Brandon Sanderson said Guy Gavriel Kay is, and I quote, the greatest living author of epic fantasy. Wow. So that's relatively high praise. And I think Rockyo, he's like Guy Gavriel Kay's his second favorite living author. I just read Lord of Emperors this month, which is Nicholas Ames's favorite book.
What?
It's in this
GGK books.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the Sarantine Mosaic. It's his duology.
I think that's the one that Locke you sent me. So it's that book one? Oh, I thought that was
no. That's it's a duology. I just read book 2 of the duology. It's a duology in that it feels like it's one book that kind of got split into 2 because they didn't want to have an 1,100 page book. I still really like book 1, but book 1 kind of just ends. Tigana is the most common starting place, I think, especially for fantasy fans, because it's the most fantasy. All his books are kind of part historical fiction, part fantasy, and Tigana is the one that is farthest from being historical fiction. I mean, the plot is like there's a kind of place that's roughly based on the Italian peninsula. It's a hand instead of a boot. It took me 600 pages to realize that was a thing on purpose.
No, you got with the Robin Hobb series. It's just Alaska upside down.
Yeah, but it took me, it's called the Peninsula of the Palm. It took me, I don't know, more than half the book until I realized, oh, it's a hand instead of a foot. Anyways, the premise is there are like 2 kind of really powerful sorcerers who each took over roughly half of the peninsula. And one of them like deleted the memory of one of the kingdoms. Anyways, it's a thing. And so it's a little bit like revolution based. It's not as, one thing I'm really interested to see what you think of Guy Gavriel Kay is for his more historical fiction based books. He's got a lot of political maneuvering, and I almost don't want to say this because I don't want to set the expectations too high. But the way he does like dialogue in political situations where, who you have like a group of interesting personalities all meeting up and like they're talking about normal stuff, somewhat normal stuff, but it has like layered meaning for politics, reminds me of the politics in Dune and the way Frank Herbert does the dialogue. So I almost don't want to say it, but it's true. Like
how to recommend a book. I'll give you that.
I do. But I would say that even to someone who wasn't you and, didn't have Dune as by far their favorite book ever.
Oh, yeah. Those people don't count.
Yeah. People who don't like Dune. Wait.
So if you said that there was like one book that people recommend you the most that you haven't read yet, or series, what would you say it is?
Well, this probably singularly comes down to Dylan or Baba, the guy on Discord, whatever you want to call him. It's probably Book of the New Sun.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of constantly trying to get me to read that. And I'm going to, if you're watching this, Dylan, I'm going to read it probably this year.
Seeing that guy just fall in love with Dune was like one of the most fun things I've ever seen. So yeah, I always respect his opinion. So the fact that he holds Book of the New Sun so high, and of course Rockio, that being like his favorite, and me and Rockio really aligning, obviously based off of Dune. That was like what our friendship started off of. So yeah, it's I just said I can't take another dense series right now. I want to finish Malazan first. So
yeah, and Guy Gavriel Kay is pretty dense.
On doing Book of No Sense until next year anyway. So
I would also say Guy Gavriel Kay at times has like goes for a similar part of your brain as Malazan does, where like Lions of Malazan, it kind of just throws you into like a pretty complicated situation.
My problem with Malazan. My problem with Malazan is like I have no idea if this is actually happening or if this is a dream or if this is a vision or if this is a flashback. No idea.
The stuff is actually happening in all the Guy Gavriel Kay books. Has there been
encouraging?
No Summer Tree, but the sequence that wasn't actually happening in the Summer Tree was amazing. So whatever.
Does he let you know that it isn't actually happening?
he's kind of he very much trusts you to put stuff together, but I also think he's not trying to deliberately like make things confusing at times. This is kind of where I feel like Erickson straddles the line of trusting his reader and deliberately hiding stuff from the reader. That was one thing I liked about, he has the God is Not Willing book. That's one thing I liked about where the God is Not Willing, where it felt like he still was trusting his reader, but he wasn't like deliberately trying to hide things from him. Sometimes I think
read Memories of Ice, and it's like, okay, so Talk and Tool are having like this conversation. I'm like all into it. All of a sudden, it's like he's talking to something called Trake. What the fuck is going on right now?
I remember there was a scene where in Memories of Ice, I'm not gonna say, but two people are talking and they're talking about like pretty mundane things, and then they're like, okay, so now we have to figure out like this super secret plan, and then it changes POVs, and I'm like, no, give me that part.
Yeah.
I mean, Erickson kind of just does whatever the hell he wants. I feel like sometimes he's just like, oh, they want me to do that, well, I'll just not do that, and they'll like the books anyways. Deal with it.
I think the one book I get a lot is this Emberblade book. Have you read that?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
I get that a lot. Empire of the Vampire, which I actually did. Have you read Empire of the Vampire yet?
I have not. I have not.
I hope you do. I think you dig it.
So
a lot of people that are kind of snobbish on the Discord, kind of like, I'm not reading a Jay Kristoff book. They've been reading it, and even they're like, this is actually pretty damn good.
So there are a couple things that scares me about Empire of the Vampire.
Sure.
Okay. The first is that a lot of the people who really like it, like yourself, Brent, etc., really like vampire stuff in general. I don't dislike vampire stuff, but I'm kind of just like, yeah, whatever, vampires are cool. Like my favorite Dresden books tend to be more like the Fey Court ones. I'm kind of the opposite of you on that. And the other is sometimes people will like post a quote and be like, look how good this quote is. And every time I'm just kind of like, whatever.
I don't know. Jay Kristoff, I don't really sit there and say, oh yeah, it's the way that he writes. No, it's just compelling storyline, I think. But he does do very good characters, and he does very good secondary characters, which is something I think a lot of authors get so focused on like their core 2 or 3 characters, and then they have background characters so they can say, look at my body count. I killed all these characters you don't care about. No, he has the high body count, but he makes you give a shit about those characters. That is really, I think, more. You aren't going to be reading this on Kindle and highlighting every few words like you do every other sentence in a Sun Eater book. Definitely not. He's definitely not that type of writer. But yeah, I could see that. I could see just reading some of those.
It's just like
out of context, be like, ain't nothing special about that.
So much about the book, and like even like the first page, I saw like the first page, and I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. It's almost like it's trying to tell me like to keep me away, and now if I read it and don't like it, like I can't even be mad at it. I'd be like, you tried to tell me not to read you.
No, he does like his bad language and his deviant behavior.
It's just like I don't know. I might read eventually. I did say at one point that there's one person on Discord. I don't know if he's in yours. I'm in a lot of Discords who like our Goodreads, if you go to like compare, is like 96%. And it's going to be higher because my Lord of the Rings score is going to go up. And like the only difference between us was Lord of the Rings was his favorite book ever. And it wasn't like I liked it, but didn't love it. So it's going to go up. And I kind of said, I'll read Empire. Like there's so many stuff that I'm going in. Like, I think I'm really going to like this. I'll read Empire of the Vampire if he reads it and says it's really good. And then there'd be like a couple other people who just like, if Pranav reads it and tells me that he thinks I'll really like it, he tends to know when I'll like something. I'll be like, all right, I'll trust you on that. But
see, I like your opinions, even if you don't like a book. I like what you say.
So that's what people, that's what feels. It's like, the thing is, I don't want to read the books I don't like.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like
I'll run into them by accident.
Hey,
sometimes.
You should read this, even though I don't think you'd like it. I'm like,
you would be entertained by me not liking it, but I won't be entertained by me not liking it. That's why I had someone be like, if you're sick of all these, like, if you want to read a bad book so you can compare it to the good book, I'd like to see what you thought of this. And I was like, as pitches go, I've seen better.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, that was really my last one. Was Empire of the Vampire there? But I get that a lot of people. I mean, look, I was standoffish on it because I was like, really, you got modern fantasy vampires? Ooh, I've seen this before. Ooh, look, he ain't got a shirt on. He's super sexy. He's got the tattoos. I was like, oh. But then you read it like, oh, well, it was kind of very, very poorly represented. Kind of like Red Rising in that respect, where everybody thinks that Red Rising is just, it's got young protagonists in it. So it's got to be, just for teenagers, right? And then you got people getting stabbed to death in the eye and fucking eating people and shit in book 1, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I guess.
And people do the thing, of course, where when they don't like it, they say it's a YA book, which drives me mad because the not YA books that people call YA books when they don't like it. If you go in and find someone who deliberately reads YA books, like they go find books, they're like, I want to read YA books, they would all be horrible book series to recommend. Like if someone who didn't like Red Rising and was like, it's like a YA book, like you wouldn't recommend Red Rising to a person who's trying to find a YA book. Like that would be a horrible recommendation. So that being said, I have like the two words that I've kind of joked that for any popular book, someone thinks it's YA and someone thinks it's grimdark.
Like Ja telling me on the server, telling me that he didn't like Doom because it was just a YA book, and I was like,
and it's like, and I have if you go to Goodreads, you can look at Dead House Gates and you can look at the tags on the right, and I have no idea how, this is no explanation, a bunch of people has labeled it as a children's book. Dead House Gates.
They got to be doing that as a joke, because that's
like the only thing I see is that the most liked quote for Dead House Gates has the word children in it. Now, the word children is immediately followed by are dying.
Yeah.
But like, anyways, so that's my theory. Take any popular book. You can someone out there has read it and been like, this felt YA. And someone out there has read it and like, this was too grimdark.
All right, so your wish list for me is Gavriel Kay. My wish list for you is Empire of the Vampire and Stephen King. I want you to read some Stephen King because I know you haven't done very much of that yet.
Yeah, I have. So Stephen King, I have a plan for Stephen King. It's not going to come soon because I got scared off. You might get mad at me here. I was mixed on The Stand. It's the only Stephen King book I've read.
Wow, okay.
And everyone before I read The Stand was like, The Stand is the best, or this like the second best Stephen King book. It's like everything he does well. And after I read The Stand, and I was like, this is what I didn't like about it. Like, he doesn't do that in his other books. And I was like, you told me it was like perfect before I read it. So this is my plan for Stephen King. I think it's more than fair. The Stephen King thing I'm the most interested in is The Dark Tower for obvious reasons. Yeah. So the next Stephen King book I read, when I read one, is probably going to be Salem's Lot because it's apparently really good. And it has connections.
It's really good, and it's probably the one you probably should read if you plan to read Dark Tower.
And then,
spoil the shit
no matter what I think of Salem's Lot, I will read The Gunslinger and The Drawing of the Three.
And decide.
Those are his three strikes. If after those three, I'm like, all right, I really like those. Then I will read a bunch of Stephen King stuff, like all the Dark Tower, 11/22/63 for sure. Etc. The Long Walk, whatever. I don't know. A bunch of
he's got a fantasy book coming out this year.
Yeah, maybe that as well. Anyway, so that's Stephen King. He's got three strikes.
When is this? Do you have a plan for when this is going to
happen? I have no idea when I'm going to do this. It's going to happen when I'm like, I feel like reading Salem's Lot. It's always the problem if I have so much stuff on my TBR.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you think of a Gavriel Kay book you want me to start with, and I'll add it to my I'll add it to my list of like, I don't know when, but yeah, it would definitely be.
I mean, I think if you own Tigana, I think I'd just start with Tigana. I wouldn't go buy another book instead of starting with Tigana. I will say my number one wish list for you to read is obviously Liveship, because Liveship is literally, like, if you just count it as that trilogy, is literally my favorite series ever. So
I'm doing a Dark Tower read along right now.
No, I'm not doing that. It would be later than that. Yeah. But like, so I will say, so for what I was mixed on for The Stand, it had the best chance of me continuing, because basically it was the very rare instance where I liked the characters and basically nothing else. I was like, the characters, those were really good, but like, I didn't get along well with the writing style. Some of like how the story was told, the plotting, like almost nothing else. The premise is cool as well. Premise, characters, which normally would be like a lock, but I just didn't get along with like anything else. And yeah, I think the middle book, which it's split like book 1, book 2, book 3. I don't know why authors don't.
A lot of people, the town hall, the rebuilding.
I'm weird though. Yeah. I think the middle one might be my favorite of the 3.
See, I like King stuff like that because I think that's when he builds his characters the best, is when there's nothing going on, except interaction with one another. So yeah, I like that stuff a lot as well. But no, I'll be honest. I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic America. There's not really a lot of world building he's going to be throwing in. So I mean, yeah, I can.
But I just didn't get and. I know, complaining about The Stand, probably not the best thing to do, but the thing that annoyed me about part 1 is every time we got a new character, they would just think about their backstory for 5 pages. and that's how they deliver the backstory. And I've heard he doesn't do that in his other books.
I mean,
People have told me.
Shit, that was just like his third or fourth book,
Yeah, so I've heard that if that's one of my significant problems with it, and I've also heard people will say like that The Stand might be like their favorite story. I have seen people say that like they think his writing tends to improve, like his actual writing, which I just didn't find it engaging. It was completely like I don't know why.
I mean, you might be broken. So
yeah, maybe there's something wrong with me. That could explain my my lukewarmness on The Stand. I love Nick though. Nick, by far my favorite character in that book.
Yeah, he's
every time I got to a Nick chapter, I was like, "Let's go."
Nick and Larry are a couple of my favorites in the whole diverse. I would say that a lot of things I like about The Stand, I think he did better in it, especially with developing those characters slowly, because he has the childhood version of them, and then he has the adult version of them, and it kind of goes back and forth. And so you're building like all of their backstory by revisiting their childhood and stuff and remembering their childhood. And I think that's pretty much where he became like the master at doing this for me. So
I'll be trying more King, but it's not high on my TBR, especially because it's one of the like books that I feel bad for saying like I don't like, because a lot of the people I really like, it's like one of their favorite authors. I'm just like,
I'll let you know, The Dark Tower is divisive. It is very divisive.
I know.
People fucking love it or they can't stand it. So it's weird. That's all I'll tell you. It's weird. It's unlike any other fantasy you've read. That's for sure. It is weird. It's like a mix of like the old Clint Eastwood Westerns and like the Arthurian legend.
I've basically heard I've joked that Hyperion is every genre. Yeah. And I've basically heard that King. So it was like, oh, people say Hyperion is every genre. Hold my beer. Yeah, I'll show you what every genre looks like. Spectrum
of like what different genres, and he just broke he put the thing all the way around it. So I'm gonna do all of these, and so it's got a little bit of everything in there. So
why choose one genre when you can do all of them? That's what Hyperion did. Hyperion, it's amazing. It's every genre.
Yeah, it really is.
I literally like I was reading it. I was like, this is every genre. My sister was like, it's probably not every genre. I was like, name a genre. And I forget what she said. What did she say? She was like, she said ones that would be ridiculous, but they were like, she was like, is it erotica? And I was like, well, Soldier's Tale. Kind of.
Yeah, right.
And she's like, is it like Christian stories? And I'm like, well, one, that's not a genre, but two, there's a priest tale. So what do you think? Yes, it is. She's like, poetry. I'm like, yep, it's got that as well.
That book tore my ass up at one point because my youngest kid's name was Alex, and I'll always say, see you later, Alex Gator. And so that part of that book fucked me up, man.
The book fucked me up.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that, man. I legitimately like The Scholar's Tale.
So good.
Literally contends for like my favorite chapter in fiction. I think if I do a top 5 favorite chapter list, it's literally up there. Yeah. Like The Scholar's Tale was just.
So if you can make it through that chapter without feeling something, you might be fucking dead inside.
Yeah, you might be a robot. If you read The Scholar's Tale and you don't feel things, your brain works differently than mine does. Like, holy crap, that like it was just so absurdly good. Like, it's like I wouldn't change anything. I can't picture a way for it to be better. Like,
just so I don't forget, which one did you say had politics similar to Dune? Was that GGK?
Yeah, that was Gavriel Kay. The way he does like the dialogue, like the dinner scene for Dune. Yeah, obviously, what a stupid question. Yeah, I've read the book 20 times. Hey, do you know this iconic scene from Dune? Yeah, more than 9 times I've read Changes.
Okay.
So like the way he frames the dialogue for there, because I think that might be like Frank Herbert's the thing he's the best at, is the way he frames dialogue. Like, it's genius. And I think the only Gavriel Kay does it somewhat similarly, where you have like all these people having this like conversation. Gavriel Kay, somewhat similar. He just kind of does whatever the hell he wants, and somehow it works, where he'll have some scenes that have like an omniscient narrator. Like there would be, like for Lord of the Rings, where it's like sometimes the narrator will say like, if Sam had known this, then it has stuff like that. And then you get to the next scene, it'll be like really deep, like Joe Abercrombie style, in the head third person. And then it'll switch to like a political scene that's like Dune, and you're like hopping between people's heads. And it can really catch people off guard, I think, because people are just like, what tense is this? But it's just all of them. You just have to.
If it was
deal with
Abercrombie, though, he'd throw something about like cock rot or something in there because that's just what he does. You know?
Yeah.
Get away with stuff like that. So you've moved Bone Saga definitely up my list in this conversation.
Yeah, I think you'll really like it.
So that's very encouraging. So let's close with this here. Okay, so you said earlier you haven't read a lot of classic stuff. Do you think that kind of played into how you felt about Lord of the Rings the first time you tried it?
Maybe. In general, when I first read Lord of the Rings, there were really two main things I think that led to me not liking as much the first time. The first is I just didn't like that more style of writing as much as I do now. The kind of more, for lack of better words, the prosy style of writing. I back then, now I kind of like both straightforward writing and the kind of more flowery writing. So I like the writing style and the prose. It's gone from, and this was kind of exhausting to read. Now when I read it, I'm like, holy crap, like this writing is so good. And the other is the way he approached characters. I had just read The Wheel of Time, and I was reading The Witcher, and both of those series are very much like get pretty deep in the characters' heads, and that's kind of like almost the point of the books, is getting deep in the characters' heads. And they're both trying to show a version of humanity that can be like, you know, petty and unreasonable at times, very self-centered. And then Lord of the Rings, it's not as deep into the characters' heads, and it doesn't feel like, and I know this because Tolkien wrote about how he was going to do a continuation of Lord of the Rings, which sounds really good to me. It sounds like Tolkien writing A Song of Ice and Fire, but he was kind of just like, it wasn't worth writing because it was just about how like humanity could like get in its own way and like basically screw things up when they had a good thing. And it really made me realize that Lord of the Rings is not supposed to be about like how humans are. It's about how we can be at our best. And so I think going in with that lens instead of, because I was doing things like I'd read early in Fellowship, like all the other Hobbit, like Sam instantly like completely supports Frodo. Yeah, I'll go on the super dangerous mission. And it's just kind of like, you know, how many people have like a group of friends that it's like, yeah, I'm going to destroy the ring, who will just like instantly, without even questioning, just be like, yeah, we're going with you. You can't even stop us. And stuff like that. And this time, like just going in with the right frame of reference and like what he's trying to do, it made me appreciate what he was doing more. And yeah, so that's the main reason I've enjoyed it so much more. It's so good.
You ever see that movie, The Town, Ben Affleck movie, The Town?
I haven't. I don't watch a lot of movies.
There was a part in that where he's talking to Jeremy Renner, one of his friends in that movie, and he's like basically says, you know what? I'm gonna have to ask you to if you would help me do something. It's probably illegal. Some people are gonna get hurt. We might not make it out unscathed. And I have no place to ask you to do this. And Jeremy Renner just says, whose car are we taking? That's basically Samwise in that story.
Yeah. And I mean, Frodo didn't even ask. Frodo was just like, also, one thing I've loved, like, I forgot how kind of cheeky like Tolkien's dialogue is. I want, like, if Tolkien wrote like a wit type character, like when some Tolkien characters can be savage. Like Gandalf, when he sees Grima Wormtongue, I was like, damn, Gandalf, like you went hard. Frodo is cheeky. In Fellowship, he's asking like the one of the elves for like advice, like what do we do? Because like Gandalf didn't show up. I feel I can spoil Lord of the Rings here.
Yeah. Guys, that's like when people were getting mad when the
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, the first 6 Star Wars movies. I haven't even
years
watched
ago, guys. Everybody's seen these movies at this point. It's like we say, "Oh, I can't believe you told me Darth Vader was Luke's father."
Yeah,
I'm like, fucking really?
Yeah. So Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Those are the things that I'm gonna just spoil. Anyways, and he's asking for advice because like Gandalf didn't show up. And the elf is just like, well, you shouldn't go against like what Gandalf said because you know what they say, like wizards are subtle and quick to anger. Yeah. But also like that's really concerning. Gandalf is basically never late. And Frodo's just like, and you know what they say, you should never go to the elves for help because they'll say both yes and no. And I was like, damn, Frodo.
Yeah. Gandalf, anytime he talks to Pippin, he gets raw on him, man. It's like, geez, it's like your mean uncle or something. Yeah. So that's
Pippin
good
stuff was really good as well. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it more this time around. I hate to sound like this, but there's lots of things I think about that I read when I was younger, and I wonder if I revisit them now, if I feel differently about them. I'll never find out with Moby Dick because to hell with that book. I'll never find out. But there are some I did that video about classics I disliked. If I revisited them now, not as a teenager, how would I feel about them? I still think I'd hate Catcher in the Rye, but I don't know. I'd probably maybe look at it from a different angle or something. So I don't know.
I'll read classics when I feel like reading classics. I'm not going to force it. I am interested in Count of Monte Cristo. You read that, right?
Oh yeah,
I feel like you gave that. Was that like 5 stars from you?
That's a quintessential tale of revenge right there, man. That's it. Every revenge story after that has just copied that. Like I think that Best Served Cold was very much Joe Abercrombie writing the Count of Monte Cristo in his own kind of way. So yeah, I think so. I think you'll dig it. I think you dig Conan eventually if you ever get to that.
That's on my list because of your videos. I almost I was in like local bookstore and they had like the complete bound edition and I went to buy it and then I saw the price tag and I was just like, maybe I'll read a couple stories like on their own.
Yeah, it's a public domain. I tell people public domain. You can get a couple for free, see if you like it.
Yeah.
Same with the Edgar Rice Burroughs I'm doing now. And obviously Lovecraft. I always tell people because the writing style isn't going to click for everyone, man. So see if you like it first before you lay down 50 on a leather bound. That would be my suggestion. So. Well, I think that we've covered a wide range of topics, and I think you're like me. You don't watch a ton of TV anymore. I've been watching a lot more of my kid because my kids. I've got to the point where I'm letting them watch R-rated movies now. So it's sharing some of these movies that I probably watched at too young of an age, and I want to kind of pass that on. But people ask you a lot, like they do me. How do you find so much time to read? And I tell them it's
the same reason.
TV.
Yeah,
how much time you have.
Yeah, that's basically why I don't really watch any TV. I basically will watch adaptations, and every once in a while I will randomly binge 2 seasons of a show in like 3 days, like once a year.
It was best. I say I have 3 main hobbies: reading, gaming, and TV, and I can do 2 of those at a time. So it's like I'll be into gaming. I won't watch any TV, but I'm never going to stop reading. So those other words are interchangeable there.
Exactly. I have a lot of hobbies, and I'm the same. I'm usually doing 2, and one of them is always reading.
Yeah.
It's reading plus.
Never going to stop, but there's so much crap on TV right now. Hey, I don't want to start sounding like old man yells at cloud, like I said. So there we go. Well, I appreciate you joining me, and I look forward to the celebration when we hit 1,000 here. I'm very
it should be pretty soon. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I feel like I'm supposed to do some kind of video.
Let's do a live stream. You gotta do a live stream, right?
All right, I'll do a live stream for 1,000 subscribers, I guess.
1,000 subscribers, and I very much look forward to talking to you about the Kingdoms of Death because if it's got you shook like this, I can't even imagine.
It'll have you shook. It'll be like there's gonna be some people who. I know you're scared of like divisive books because you tend to be on like the bad side of divisive, but this will be divisive because some people will be like, that was too dark.
Too dark.
You're not going to be on that side.
That's my brand. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to be, you are not going to read a book and be like,
this is dealing with space. Space is scary. People die. So
yeah.
Happens, so.
Oh man. I still can't believe he did that. Anyways.
Well, I know he doesn't kill a character that I like a lot because I know that character's on the cover of book 5. So.
I'm not gonna say anything. I think if anyone thinks that based on what I've said, like they know what's gonna happen, you don't. You don't know what's gonna happen. Oh, I'm looking forward to people's reactions so much.
I just see Rockio just like rubbing his hands.
Yes, that's what I read it long enough ago that now when I see the reactions, I'm in this mode.
All right, well, I can't wait to do it. Well, thanks so much for joining me, especially on a school night like this. But
reading,
got to get my kids ready for bed and stuff now. But I do appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to talking here real soon.
Yeah, had fun talking about nothing. Bye, everyone watching.